Hello, it's Wendy Woo. Today I'm Wiggly Wendy because I'm going to show you how to make a Wiggly bag for children having chemotherapy. This is a little bag like this. Oopsie daisy. That goes around a child's neck. Sorry, I'm doing this from my bed. Everybody else will do a sewing tutorial from their sewing machine, but I'm in bed a lot. So this little bag goes around their neck. When a child is having chemotherapy, they have a little hole somewhere in their chest where the Hickman line comes out for them to have all their medicines, and it's often branched off into what's called wigglies. If you can imagine pipe cleaners, as these little wires come out, it saves them having lots of injections. But the wigglies need to be kept safe and clean, and this is where the Wiggly bag comes in, because the wigglies, the lines, slot into this little bag. It keeps them clean. It stops them getting infections in the line, and it stops them rubbing it. Otherwise, they just get taped to their chest, and it's very uncomfortable. They get sweaty. They get infections. One of the hardest things for children having chemotherapy is keeping their lines clean, so they don't get line infections. Line infections are a big, big problem. This tiny little bag that will take you 5 minutes to make, 10 minutes for your first one, 5 minutes afterwards, will really, really help a little child, and they're lovely to make. They need very little fabric. There are a few ground rules. You need to use either pure cotton if you possibly can, or polycotton at a pinch. Don't use anything stretchy. This is a piece I was doing for Halloween. Don't use anything stretchy because it has to be kept firm. Don't use anything metallic like sequin fabric because it goes against their bare skin, so to be scratchy. Don't use anything that you think, oh, it feels lovely, it's fleecy, it feels lovely, because you don't want the child touching the bag, because they could disturb the lines. It needs to be nice and jolly, so that they like wearing it, but firm cotton. That sounded like fern cotton, didn't it? I think she's a telly doodle. Anyway, piece of firm fabric. This is one I forgot to put in my stash to Bristol last week. I make them for Bristol Children's Hospital, Ward 34, and on a monthly basis, and I forgot to put this one in. If I'm using a dark fabric, like the owls or even the purple, or the lovely eyes, then I wash the fabric before I start. I wash the bags afterwards, but I wash the fabric at the beginning in hot soapy water to get any excess dye out, because once they're made up and you're washing the whole batch, you don't want the whole batch being ruined by the excess dye. Now, I had a little piece of Wiggly bag fabric cut out without any folds in it to show you just how little piece of fabric you need to start off with. But as I say, I'm in bed and it's gone. So I start off with a piece of fabric. I'm a bit old fashioned. I use inches, and I also use inches and centimetres at the same time. My husband can't bear it, but there we go. It's my piece of fabric starts off life as it's 9 inches this way, and it's 5.5 inches up and down, which on my tape measure will tell me 5.5 inches is about the up and down one is about 14 centimetres up and down, and then going across 9 inches is about 23. If you get a fat quarter, you could actually get 8 out of a fat quarter. I didn't used to like fat quarters, but they can be handy for if you don't have a lot of sewing materials at home and you don't want to spend a lot of money buying a metre of fabric or 2 metres of fabric. You buy a fat quarter of a nice cotton. I've got some nice rainbow stripe here, or this lovely spotty, or as I say, the eyes. This is all I've got, or the stars actually. and that'll only set you back about 125, something like that, 150 possibly. And also fat quarter is good for, I do a lot of appliques on mine. If you get a fat quarter with lots of different patterns on them, lots of different designs. I've got a space one. I'm afraid it's not with me at the moment, but you get lots of different pictures that you can cut out an applique onto the front, so that with one backing fabric and then one applique fabric, you can get lots of different wiggly bags. I like to make mine all different when I send them to the hospital. I send about 24 a month, and I like to make each one a little bit different, even if it's just a ribbon of colour of the ribbon. Anyway, let's get back to basics. You start off with a piece of fabric, 9 inches by, that's going across, by 5.5 going up and down. So that's your 23 by your 14, 13, 14. What you're aiming for is a little bag that ends up as 10 centimetres square, roughly. I mean, sometimes mine are 9.5 by 11, and sometimes a 10.5 by 10.5, but I've not got into trouble yet. So roughly 10 centimetres, 4 inches square. So you get your piece of fabric, and you, at the top, you need to fold in a centimetre, and then a centimetre again. And I find the best way to do that is to iron it. I can't actually hold a real iron because I'm a weakling, so I've got a little tabletop iron that I have in my sewing table, and a tiny iron. It's like a kid's toy iron, but it's enough for just folding that over. You can see that's folded over like that. So you iron that down, and that gives you your seams really for the top. This first one here, I usually zigzag that, and that's a point. When I do I'm ironing that first centimetre in, then the second centimetre, so you get that nice fold. But I also fold it in half. Oopsie daisy. I fold it in half, and I iron it in half so that you've got a marker line. It's where that green pin is actually there. Oopsie daisy, let me find it. That green pin is on the marker line. That's your halfway. That's so one side will be your front and one side will be your back. They'll be folded together and then sewn down the side and down the bottom. The ribbon goes in the top. Now, you sew the first little bit. I usually do a zigzag. You do need a sewing machine, but you only need it for 10 minutes for your first one, so you can borrow anybody's, steal a sewing machine if you have to. Borrow a sewing machine for 10 minutes. I zigzag this bit, and then I attach my ribbon. Now, there are lots of Wiggly Bag tutorials saying to use cotton tape or gauze grain ribbon, but it hurts the neck. I use double-sided satin ribbon, which means that it's soft and silky on both sides. It doesn't stretch. It's nice and firm. It's soft and silky on both sides, and you don't have the problem then of finding which is the right way and the wrong way when you're pinning it in. It's something I really struggle with. So I have ribbons in lots of jolly colours. Don't use anything sharp. This is glitter ribbon. I don't know if you can see it there. You can see it sparkly. Don't use that. It'll be really scratchy. Double-sided satin. There are plenty of places on eBay. I started off using 15 centimetre ribbon, and I still do that a lot, but I've gone down to 10 centimetre ribbon because a lot of, quite a few mums are saying, for the little girls especially, they want it to be quite inconspicuous around the neck for party dresses. So I use 10 centimetre ribbon. Plenty of places on eBay where you can get a full reel of ribbon, and there's plenty that do buy 3 get 1 for, whatever. But if you just want to make a few, go to a shop and just buy a couple of meters of ribbon. I can't get to the shops. So what I do, I've got this lovely spotty fabric. There you go. I've pinned a little piece of trolls, and that is grosgrain ribbon. That is grosgrain ribbon, and that is an inch wide, 25 millimeters. Just started dealing with that. It makes it very quick. You don't have to put anything on the front. You can just send spotty ones or flowery ones or dinosaur ones, whatever. But I like patterns and patterns, so mine always gets something extra. So you've zigzagged that bit. You find your fold, and then you cut your ribbon. I'm not going to use that ribbon. Let's use. Well, I think I'll. Oh no, there's a slightly darker yellow. I'm going to. I don't know what age this child is, but it's 12, so I'm going to think this is for a young child. So I'm going to cut this off at about 25 inches, which is 64 centimeters. You lose 2 inches of ribbon, or 5 or 6 centimeters in your length by the time you've pinned it in. So I'm no good on left and right. This is the back of the fabric. This side is going to be where I pin the ribbon, and I pin it. I'll show you. I'm quite cat-handed for someone who likes sewing. I'm quite clumsy really, but I'll just show you. I pin my ribbon in. So I pin it in about 1 centimetre away from the outer edge, and about quite close to the central fold. Not on the central fold, but just a teeny weeny bit in from the central fold. So I put a couple of pins. I always find it helps if you stick your tongue out like that. So there's the pinned it in. 1 pin, 2 pins. Pin the ribbon in. Zigzag over that. When you get to the ribbon, zigzag it a couple of times. Go backwards and forwards a couple of times. Carry on zigzagging all the way along this first fold. That will just make it so much easier when you do your second fold, which you will then do with a straight stitch. And when you do your second fold, you pull your ribbon up. Whoopsie daisy, I don't know if you can see. You pull your ribbon up and you stitch along the bottom part of the ribbon. And then you stitch along the bottom part. Whoopsie daisy, I'm seeing if I've got one I prepared earlier. No, I haven't. Hey ho. So you stitch along the bottom part of that ribbon. Fold that over. And stitch along that part of the ribbon. Now I'll pin them both so you can see what's going on now. There we go. Sorry about this. It would make life easier if I was at my sewing table, but I wouldn't have the energy to then do this. So your ribbons are now pinned in place on the second fold, and then you stitch along the bottom part of that seam. And again, when you come to the ribbon, go forward and back a couple of times. You stitch all the way along the bag. And then when I come back and I stitch along the top of the ribbon, again forward and back a couple of times just on the ribbon side, the ribbon piece, the ribbon half of the fold of the bag. So right along there a couple of times. So that's your bag. It's like that. Now you can pin on whatever you fancy. As you can see, I pinned on some troll tape. This one here, I might do I might just leave that as it is because it's quite good. Although I did do some for Halloween with some orange skull and crossbone tape, pirate tape, and I think I did some with witches' hats, that sort of thing. This is a lovely fabric. This has got rainbow stripe, and I cut out a flying unicorn. This is gorgeous fabric. Got this from a lady called Linda Deacon on Facebook. Bonnie Fabrics. So there we go. And this was just a little beach hut. This is a reject bag actually, but that's a little beach hut. So your ribbon is sewn in place. You've put whatever you fancy on the front. I had some owls on that other one. Where did it go? Oh yes, that's my one with my owls. Sometimes I make my own applique, so I get some stripy or zigzaggy fabric, and I make a hot air balloon or butterfly or things like that. But it's quite easy if you just cut out a little shape, or even easier, the tape. You can get that in superhero stuff and princesses and minions dressed up as superheroes, minions dressed up as Father Christmas, minions dressed up as ghosts. You get the idea. Very quick and easy. Ribbon sewn in, tape sewn on the front, and this is easy peasy. Fold in half. You've got your nice crisp iron line. Fold in half. Sew with a straight stitch down here. I put my presser foot, the sewing machine foot, on the edge, and then you get about a centimetre. Down there. Does help if you pin it together, but I'm sure you can know what's going on. Down there. Keep your needle point in at the end. When you come to the end, keep your needle point in, and then go across here. Go forward and back a couple of times here, and then come back along here. Keep your needle point in, up here, forward and back a couple of times there. And at that point, you you should measure off the first sewing that you've got 10 centimetres of bag inside your stitching. If you've got more than 10 centimetres, if you've got a lot more, like 12 centimetres, do take it in a little bit, do another line of stitching inside. 10 centimetres is your ideal. It doesn't matter, as I say, half centimetre either way. Then you trim it down and you zigzag it. And I tend to cut the corners. I tend to cut a corner, cut a little bit off like that, so that it's not too bulky. Once I've done my stitching, you just cut the excess fabric away, so that you're not having too much fabric there, because it makes it bulky to dry. So you then zigzag it. I'll turn my owl one inside out. I'm not the neatest sewer, but but they're strong and sturdy. So this is quite good because I've actually used black stitching on this one. I usually use white. So you can see I've done 2 or 3 lines of straight stitching, come across here, and I've zigzagged. I've only taken up a little corner there. That's it. Your bag's done. So now the bit that's nearly as important as making the bag is washing, ironing, drying, packing. It has to be done really carefully, really hygienically. If you've got a washing machine, put them in a little net bag or some sort of pillowcase or something, and knot it and shove them in the washer like that. When they come out, you need to, if you've got a tumble dryer, pop them in a tumble dryer, again in the bag to keep them away from everything else. If you haven't got a tumble dryer, I don't have a tumble dryer, you have to get a face mask on. I don't have any here, but you know what they look like. Again, I get them from eBay. Or, failing that, a clean wash it scarf. Put it round, you've abandoned it for half an hour. You have to put your face mask on, you have to wipe down your rack, wipe your pegs, wash your hands really well on a clean towel. And I wash my pillowcases because I dry mine in or inside pillowcases. Wash your pillowcases when you're washing your bags. Iron your pillowcases on a hot iron. peg those with your clean pegs onto your cleaned rack. I use Dettol wipes. You've got your face mask on already. You've got your gloves on, vinyl gloves on. Iron the Wiggly bags on the I usually iron them on the inside, quite on a hot iron, no steam because they're wet. Iron them on a hot iron and really iron the top seams and round the seams to get that as dry as you can. When they're ironed, pin them on your pillowcase or tea towel with a clean peg. Pillowcases are quite good because they've got that little flap at the bottom, and so I put the pillowcase half over the line, and so the Wiggly bags drop into the little flap, and I peg them on. I get about 5 onto each pillowcase. Then I fold the pillowcase back over and peg that down, so it's as sealed in as it can be. Leave them to dry. Don't dry them outside. You can't get extra germs on. Dry them inside. If you haven't got a tumble dryer, do the pillowcase or tea towel method like I do. Keep them away from cooking smells and stuff like that. I wash mine in unscented washing powder called Sure Care, or if I'm doing them by hand, I do them in unscented soap. When you come to take them off the line, again, face mask, gloves on, turn them the right way through, another quick iron. Keep them covered up, maybe in a little cotton bag while you're bagging them up. I bag mine up into little grip top bags, little plastic bags. They're about 5 inches square, so they're perfect for a Wiggly bag. And then I put a label on the back saying what length the ribbon is and telling people not to cut the ribbon because it will fray. It will fray. I know some people do 2 ribbons so they can knot them at the back, and the hospital asked me to do some like that last year, but they didn't like them. The knot was uncomfortable for the children, so I do just a variety of lengths. A 3-year-old will need a ribbon of about 22 inches, which is about 56 centimetres, and I go anything from that 56 centimetres up to about 90 centimetres for the teenagers. If the ribbon is too long, at the hospital, they can just fold the ribbon back on the inside of the bag and just stitch it down. So there you go. Please, please make some Wiggly bags. It will be the best thing you've ever made. It doesn't matter if they're a bit wonky. Mine are Wiggly Wendy's wonky Wiggly bags, if you like, but Wiggly Wendy's Wiggly bags. It doesn't matter if they're a bit wonky, as long as they're clean and securely sewn and they look nice, because a child will love wearing that and it can make all the difference to their treatment. Thank you so much, and please don't leave any nasty messages. I can't cope. Bye. Thank you.